All right, and welcome back, everyone, to another episode. If you caught our last episode, just as a quick summary, last time we did talk about sleep and how sleep, or rather the lack of sleep, uh, negatively affects our attitudes, affects our moods. And so, really go back and watch or listen to that because it was a lot of good information. Along the same lines, though, today we did want to touch a little bit on motivation. It seems that all of us have felt motivated, whether it's in work, whether if you played sports, you might have been motivated to ask that girl out on the date who's now your wife, or whatever the case may be. A lot of us have felt motivated, and we feel that when we are motivated, that drive to move forward towards a goal. But at the same time, I'm sure all of us have felt motivated at one point, only to have that motivation dwindle or be gone, whether it's a day later, a week later, or even an hour later. And so, I guess before we get into more of that, Dad, can you maybe explain a little bit what is the I guess the mechanism of motivation and how does that work?
Well, there is a psychological mechanism, no, and that produces behavior. And that behavior, is to solve important tasks, no, in our human needs, and there are different dimensions, no, naturally, okay. And some of those are, we trying to optimize, the survival through our biological genetic, and that the body does it on its own, as far as it has nutrition, and also maintain the bodily integrity, which is a protection, avoiding external danger and threats, optimize, the environment where we live and our socio-economic status, acquire some other survival skills, and including, a relationship, with the spouse, with married, so or with the family. Because so these needs, then serve as it's the foundation, no? And it's very necessary and to help us to have, motivation, which we can label as comfort, love, nurture, creativity, be part of some group affiliating, sometimes status, justice or curiosity or play. So this is the psychological part. Now, if we look at the biology, with motivation, we're going to see is chemicals. So these psychological or the deliberately, okay, intentions, it moves the genetic activities. And then it moves us. And there are chemicals involved, like dopamine, which is we set a goal, we have an intention of doing something from the most simple to the more complex. The most simple is I want to go in to the kitchen, okay? Because there's something that's underneath, which is I'm hungry, or I want to surprise my kids and have lunch for them, or maybe I want to try a new recipe. So that intention, it immediately activate mechanisms in the brain, cells, some genes are activated, and then dopamine it is produced. And dopamine is a neurotransmitter that also acts as a hormone. Okay, so this neurotransmitter, literally what it does is creates this sense of movement. So I move towards the kitchen, okay, and then the fact when I move towards the kitchen, it is like if I'm getting closer to my goal, which is eating or cooking or whatever it is. And so it's on the complex part of life. I want to go to school, or I want to have a business, or I want to date this girl. So the whole process of creating dopamine is there. Or I want to go and run or play music or read a book or no. So, or perhaps improve my mental state. So it requires this, so the dopamine, it helps me to move. It's kind of like it push me to, okay. So the dopamine get me from here to the kitchen. And then, as I'm aware that I'm in the kitchen, it is a constant, a production of more dopamine, so I can move to now, get the things I need to cook. Okay, so it is when I have the intention to, let's say I'm single, when I date a girl, so there's dopamine. So the reward, which is at the end, okay, is finishing a cooking or dating a girl or getting married or having a family. So it is not received by dopamine, but dopamine helped me to getting closer. So dopamine helped me to move towards the girl and say hello, no, and they have a conversation. And then little by little, more dopamine, it moves me, and until finally, I marry that girl or I finish cooking. And then when I have these steps on the journey to achieving something, so literally, finally, I have finished cooking and I have the reward. And the reward is to present to my kids with this dinner or see their smile, okay? Or perhaps, it's finalizing with my grades and, with my school and having a degree. But really, the real strength, it comes through the process of the steps. As dopamine, it helps me to move, So is when I want to change. If I want to change, I'm not satisfied with what I'm doing mentally or physically or in any other way. It's affecting, I'm aware of it, so I want to change. Now I need dopamine too. But besides dopamine, I'm going to need, some other things, when I'm moving towards a goal. And I'm going to need acetylcholine, which is another chemical that the brain produces, kind of shake me a little, so I break the patterns of my bad habits, so I can start a new pattern.
So then, here's the question, and I brought this up a little earlier. All of us have felt motivated to do something. We wake up, or maybe we wake up and we say, "Oh, I'm going to go hit all my goals for today. I have this to-do list." Or maybe you even went to like a conference and you feel so pumped to go and hit your goals, whatever it might be. But then an hour later, 2 days later, a week later, whatever it might be, you don't feel that motivation anymore. So why is that? Why can we feel so motivated, like literally an hour ago, and then an hour later we're just like, ugh, screw it?
Well, there's a Greek term called akrasha. Akrasha means that I know that there's something I need to do that is good for me, but I don't do it. Okay. Or I do something that I know is not good for me, but I do it anyways. So that is literally what's happening. And that has a root. So there are addictions, behavior addictions. Not necessarily could be a substance. No. Some behavior addictions, some patterns, that could really affect the production of dopamine. So dopamine, it can be affecting its production if I'm under psychological stress. See, because we have to remember that the thought that we're entertaining or the communication we're having with the memory of our brain, sometimes we do those talk. Now, rumination, dialogues, okay, that are in reference to things of the past, the pain of the past, the mistakes, my mistakes, somebody's mistakes, or whatever we have witnessed. So those communications in our own internal communication in terms of what we're thinking, if those are negative, if they're corrosive, if they are not constructive, the brain, gets on alert state. And when the brain is in alert state, it will produce a lot of cortisol. It's going to produce aldosterone, more norepinephrine. These chemicals block the production of dopamine. So the areas of the brain that produce dopamine are going to be interfered. So there's going to be lower amount of dopamine. So dopamine is, for example, if I move my hands like this, I need dopamine. See, I had the intention, for example, if I'm talking, it is dopamine. So I had the intention to be in this show with you. So, and then I know that in the show you told me, oh, can we talk about motivation? So at the moment that I had the intention to be in your show, see the memories of my brain, which is organized, is going to immediately, are going to be organized because of dopamine. I want to be here. I want to share this. I feel excited about doing it. Okay. And then dopamine helps. So there is activity of the mind, activity of the body. So these activities helps to send signals through dopamine to my vocal cords and organize the ideas in the world so I can set it. Okay. And then if I move my hands, it's the same. As you see me, I have some habitual ways to move my hands. That's part of the same dopamine. So dopamine is related to muscle activity too. I walk to the kitchen to do the recipe. I open the book. So there's areas of the brain, the motor cortex, that it sends signals to my muscle. So I can do the action. Because really motivation is about you move to the next step, to go towards your goals, whatever they might be. Sometimes, we choose wrong and we planning to commit a crime, no? And then still there's going to be some dopamine, of course, is going to create a lot of damage because, I'm forcing, towards something that's detrimental, damaging. And it's going to be a consequence naturally because, this is not like just getting there, committing the crime and just feeling good. It just makes you worse because the dopamine, for anything we do. Okay. But anyways, the motivation, going back to that, it will diminish as these, mental activities. I'm thinking negatively. No, oh my goodness, what if I cook and my son doesn't like it? Oh yeah, he's always kind of this way. And he's this, and and eye level, and then more thoughts come, and my mind keep kicking and putting to the surface some of the same thoughts that I placed it 2 years ago about my son or last year. And then I have in this conversation. So now cortisol drops, it goes up and dopamine goes down. And then I feel like, I don't know if I want to go to the kitchen anymore. And then you sit on the couch, get some potato chips, watch a movie, and read a book about how to be a better father. But you don't do anything. Okay. That's a crash. Okay. I know that it's good for my relationship to do something because maybe the intention came, it was prompted, hey, my relationship maybe is not as good with my son and I want to do something to improve it. Or maybe it's good and I just feel like doing it. Okay. It's just something that comes. And then if we don't interact this process, this biological process, after intention by other thoughts that are going to be the obstacles, dopamine is there. And you can put your shoes and go and run or do your exercise or hit the books and read it, or be in the kitchen, or have a nice conversation, or perhaps do business, okay, or make anything that you want to change in your life.
So then, I guess that brings up the point. Then, would it be correct to say then if you are, especially regularly, if it's happening regularly, especially if you are feeling unmotivated to do stuff and stuff that you know that you should be doing, is that a sign? Then would that be a sign that you are having psychological stress and may not realize it?
Oh, it is. Yeah, it always psychological stress. See, if I'm really down, I'm bored, I feel anxiety, I don't feel motivated to do things. Oh yeah, there is a level of stress there. Okay. And we have to kind of figure out, okay, what are the thoughts that are producing this? And of course, it's a little bit more complex. Once we get into anxiety and the stress is higher, then emotions are strong. And these, less pleasant emotions, anger or sadness or resentment or, I don't know, envy, jealousy, mind that's compared, probably it's just, it can be strong. So we need to kind of learn how to do this before these emotions come in place, because those emotions will reinforce more negative thoughts and it will freeze you or it will make you reactive to do those things that you actually is going to make you more damage. or maybe not do anything and stay there, you know, in front of the TV watching something, or maybe uh, entertaining some addictive behaviors. No?
Mhm. So then, a question then. So if psychological stress is at the root of feeling unmotivated and having our motivation just go down, then I guess here's a question for you. A lot of people, when they feel unmotivated, or they start off Mondays like, oh, it's Monday, gotta go to work, gotta work on whatever. They oftentimes listen to motivational speakers, motivational videos, thoughts, which I don't think are bad. I don't think I'm going to put that. I don't think are bad, but I guess what does that really? It, I guess what are your thoughts on that? Like, if someone is already having psychological stress, is motivational speaking, motivational videos, is that going to help, or what are your thoughts on that?
Well, there is information we're receiving daily through nature, families, and every experience at work. Okay, and we could be actually inspired. We could actually be inspired by our own mistakes, because life is benevolent and I'm going to have a crisis or a problem. So that could be also a reason for changing and start kicking out the motivation. Okay. But, and of course, when there is strong emotions and we don't know how to handle emotions, we don't know how to really direct our thoughts and utilize the memories of the mind. So it's hard to do this. So most people, what they do is, so most people drink coffee to feel better. No? And of course, that doesn't work. Some people beer, make you feel better and motivated to kind of maybe dance and do some things, but it doesn't work. It creates more damage. Or some people smoke or use some other substance. It doesn't work. Okay, other people do better things than that. They do exercise. And the exercise helps to kind of kick a little bit of dopamine, okay? And it helps, at least you're not as much as dropping your mind for those 30 minutes of exercise. And it's good also for the body. But eventually the dopamine is going to run out, after 15 minutes or 10 minutes or half an hour, or when you get home and you see that your son did not do the things that he promised to do, or your boss says something, and again, you go back to the same state. So all these things are good, the exercise, the yoga, I can listen to a talk, and it helped me to understand. But this is the one part, this is the one process, which is have to do with knowledge, have to do with information. Okay. But information and knowledge is not enough. Okay. This is only runs within the analytical part and reasoning. Okay, I listen to a talk. I can do that in church. I go to church, listen to somebody speak and say, listen, we got to love our neighbor. And you kind of ponder about it and say, oh, yeah, I've been really mean with my spouse. I'm going to change. Then you go home and, an hour later, you kind of, again, on the same place you were before. Okay. And then we wonder why this happened. I have this powerful feeling that, I really can do this and change and, have a better life and more romance and maybe a better friendship with my son or my spouse or my father. And then now I'm, and it's hard because that can actually hurt you because you're going to be pulled between hope and the fears, you're going to pull apart. So the same can happen with a motivational speech. I listen, it makes sense, some of the things, and then I go home and I do the same thing I was doing. Okay. So motivation is not enough because the motivation cannot come from the outside. Mm-hmm. So, but the information probably is good. Somebody teach about, behavior. And then of course it's going to make me aware and I say, okay. But also will depends on your mental state. Because maybe I learned something about behavior and I think about my kids. Yeah, they are the one that have to change. Or maybe I get the information and then I become so analytical and I reason and it doesn't work. Because if I use the same information that I have in circuitries and maps in my mind to change, it won't work. Okay. What I'm gonna have probably is a do, but a never to become. I'm gonna do the things, but I'll never become. And until we don't become the things that will really help us to integrate, the biology, okay, and organizations have the information that we got in our memories, and integrate the stimulus from the external world in all our nervous system, and we actually still can be unmotivated. Maybe unmotivated for a little bit, I mean, there's people that can be motivated. Criminals are motivated. So yeah, and they are motivated by greed, no? So basically, that doesn't mean that I only produce dopamine when I'm motivated to do good. I can be be motivated for disgust, or maybe for horror. I can be motivated by lust. So I can be motivated because I have a compare mind, no, and that can kick the dopamine, increase. But of course, we all know that this is I'm probably gonna be working on a blind spot. No, maybe I can see the results of my greed with some success, but I'll be lonely at the end, and I can never escape, the intentions of my heart. I'm never going to escape from the memories that my brain is going to keep because of whatever behaviors I'm doing. So the key is that we align with the moral compass, with the ethics, okay, and with our divine nature. And that's the way how you can keep putting dopamine in your system. Serotonin is going to come, and there is oxytocin, and it's all these things, work magically in our biology. So now, with that in mind, you have built over a rock. The wind comes, a challenge comes, and you know how to handle. Your son make a mistake, and you don't get really suffering for 10 years. Okay, there's a mistake done by your boss, or a crisis comes, or death appears, or maybe, something happened with somebody's health, an accident, or our finance changes. So if we have solid, and this is when we integrate all this, I mean, we'll have a little pain that will stand, and it will be a teaching lesson. The pain might last for half a second, maybe 30 minutes, and it's gone, and you become a better person. So, and you're not stuck with, that mind is like a jumping like a rabbit. No, it doesn't stop with thoughts and worries and concerns and trying to be ambitious and obsessive about getting things and getting to the top. No, and that is just not a way to live. It's a waste. And we can get dopamine and all these neurotransmitters without really, going to this spectrum and this other side, the dark side.
It's interesting throughout these videos. It's basically been the same thing. How at the root of so much of these, whether it's motivation, whether it's sleep, it comes down to what is our mental state. What is the I guess the perspective and the different neural circuitries that we have developed. Because as you mentioned, a motivational speaker can help. Learning from someone is great. Learning, even this video, we're probably saying some things that people have never heard before. But at the end of the day, it only does so much if you're not working on this, if you're not developing that. But really, your mental state and improving it so that it's more in line with what, as you said, our divine nature. More in line with really happiness. I think too many of us, we oftentimes, and maybe it's a cultural thing, but we oftentimes look toward external things.
Yeah, and it's not about intellectual IQ, and even it's beyond emotional IQ. Okay, because I can be aware of your feelings, but and that's good, and that helps me. I also have to be aware of my own at the same time that I'm aware of yours, and I'm aware of the impact that this is creating internal me and in the environment. So it is really a different level, okay, understanding, how I deal with the experiences and this pursue, okay, and strong desire to be happy and contribute. It can be done only when we comprehend, how this process takes place. And, we have amazing help and resources for the audience, if they ever want to get access to this.
Yeah, and we will go ahead and link up, put those links down below. And yeah, I think we'll wrap up right there, Dan, unless you have any final thoughts on this.
No, I'm glad to be with you, and glad that we have a good Valentine's dinner, Chester.
Yeah, that was very nice. That was nice seeing all the family.
Thank you.